All right. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you, Rabbi Feigenbaum, for taking care of things remotely tonight. Welcome everybody who's in person, and welcome everybody who's online. And as usual, we'll ask you guys to mute yourselves. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself. That way I don't have to publicly embarrass anybody. Okay, which is not one of the things you need to do to be happy. All right, so this is the second installment of our positive psychology course entitled The Science of Thriving, where we're sharing different studies on happiness and wellness and all sorts of good things. I have 3 studies to review with you tonight, and hopefully you will enjoy them. All right, so quick review on what we talked about last time. For those of you who missed it, it's also on the Eitz Chaim network. We talked about, does money matter? And the answer is yes, somewhat. Watch the recording to find out more. We talked about buying experiences, not possessions, leads to greater happiness. So you get more joy out of spending money on experiences versus possessions. And then we talked about the 31 benefits of gratitude, the ultimate science-backed guide, which you can get online if you just Google 31 benefits of gratitude, the ultimate science-backed guide. And there were 31 different benefits there. And we ultimately discussed taking 5 minutes a day to sit and be grateful for the things that we have and the people that we have and all the things that make us happy, to overcome hedonic adaptation, which is human nature for us to get used to the things that we have and the people that we have, and the fact that we could see and walk, if we can see and walk, and all the good things that we have in our lives. I'm using things broadly, not things necessarily, but things, things. So anyway, that hopefully has been something you've been doing, to spend 5 minutes appreciating what you have in your life to be grateful for and seeing some positive benefits. So that was a quick overview. We talked about how psychologists have been studying mental health issues and helping people move from negative to neutral for the past 100 years. And in the past 30 years, we've been studying people that have been thriving so that we can take the average person and help them be actually happy, because not being unhappy is not the same as being happy. That's happier, but it's not the same thing. To feel neutral about your life, it's much better to feel positive about your life. So some of the things that we focused on last week hopefully will help, as well as this week. All right. So the first study is a study on smiling. Okay. And the question I put to you guys is, smiling a good thing? Say yes, right? Why is smiling a good thing? Right? The Mishnah says you should, receive all people with a smile.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to smile. Is smiling important for happiness?
When you
Yes.
smile, it makes you feel better.
Very good.
Mhm.
It makes you.
Right. So Risa here in our live classroom said that smiling makes you feel better. So we have a study that asks the question, does smiling make you feel better? Because it is actually something they studied, because we assumed, and we've been taught, and maybe we've personally experienced, that smiling makes us feel better. You're down in the dumps, put on a smile, right? Seems like good advice. Even if you don't feel like it, why fake it till you make it? And there are plenty of, good wisdom out there that if you don't feel like doing something and you do it anyway, it does work. It makes you feel better. Outside in approach, we call it, right? Outside in. My insides are not feeling so good, but I'm going to do something externally. I'm going to engage in some action that hopefully will impact my emotions, the inside. outside in. So does it work? Is fake smiling a good thing? Another way to put it. Should we put on a fake smile if we don't feel like it? Here comes a study from Michigan State University on this question. If you don't feel good, should you put on a smile? East Lansing, Michigan. Want to keep your boss happy? Smile at your customers. Want to keep yourself happy and productive? Smile like you mean it. A new study led by a Michigan State University business scholar suggests customer service workers who fake smiles throughout the day worsen their mood and withdraw from work. What? People who have been working and have been told for their customer service, you got to smile at the customers. It's good for customer service, but what about for the customer service representative who's faking a smile? What does that do to their mood? According to this study, makes their mood worse. Fake smiling makes it worse. Very interesting.
Well, that's because they're being commanded to do that. So
Yeah.
you already are negative about
Mm.
the smile.
Right. Someone's telling you to. Yeah. Or you feel like it's part of your job, right? You feel like it's part of your job, so you have to smile. But they're saying, A, it made them feel worse to fake smile, and B, they withdrew more from work. So they were like trying to, find the nearest desk to hide behind after a couple hours of fake smiling. It actually worsened their mood. On the other hand, workers who did something internally to improve their mood, which led to a real smile, found positive benefits. So it says like this: workers who smile as a result of cultivating positive thoughts, such as a tropical vacation or a child's recital. We don't do a whole lot of those, but that's where your kid goes up and plays piano and makes you really happy to see them do good things. That improves their mood and makes you withdraw less. So I thought this was a very interesting study. So we assume that putting on a smile and faking it is a good thing. Not necessarily. It could make you feel worse. But if you actually do things internally in your mind that create a positive mood, then that smile that's resulting is going to help you. But the smile would be more of a symptom of you changing what you're thinking. So you're thinking something negative. You're thinking, I don't know, like this, I hate this job, or I hate these people, or whatever it is. If you learn how to reframe that thought, or you change the way you're thinking, that would lead to positive emotion, which would lead to smiling. So it appears that an inside-out approach is superior to the outside-in approach. Does that make sense? Changing the thoughts that lead to the emotion is superior to changing the behaviors that you would have from positive emotion, trying to change the emotion. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is cognitive behavioral therapy. Some of you may be familiar with it. The big discovery was that when a person is stuck in traffic and they're really, really anxious about being late for work, it's not actually the traffic that's making them anxious. It's a big medical discovery here. It's not the traffic that's making the person anxious. It's what they're thinking about the traffic. Because you could have someone who's equally as late, right, to the same job, but they're thinking to themselves, it'll be okay. Like I'll get chewed out. I've been chewed out before. I'm sure a lot of people are late today. Seems like there's like some particularly bad traffic, different thoughts, same traffic, different emotion. They're going to be calm. So two guys stuck in the same traffic, late for the same job. One guy is thinking, this is a disaster. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to die, And the other person is thinking, like, I'll get chewed out. I've been chewed out before. No big deal. They're going to have very different emotions. The first guy's going to have panic, and they're thinking, I hate this place, and I hate this city, and I hate this traffic, and they're feeling rage. And the other person is thinking, it's okay, no big deal. I'll get through it, and they're feeling calm. The traffic is the same. The job is the same. All the variables can be the same, But if the person's thinking is different, they're going to have different emotional, what we call an emotional consequence, right? So you can make 3 columns: facts, traffic, late. Those are facts. Okay, that's the first column. The second column is all the thoughts that you're having about the traffic. And then the third column is the emotion that you're feeling. The emotion is not coming from the first column, which is the traffic. The emotion is coming from the second column, which is what you're thinking about the traffic. So learning to identify what it is that you're thinking can help identify whether or not these thoughts are helpful or not. So if you'd ask that person, why are you freaking out? They would say the traffic, right? Because that's what they're aware of. But through a course of 10 amazing cognitive behavioral sessions, they would start learning that it's what they're thinking about the traffic, and maybe start getting more control over it and start thinking, well, what else could I think? What else could I focus on? So the thoughts change, and therefore the emotion changes, even though the traffic is still the traffic. Okay. So if that person, while they're freaking out, puts on a fake smile, according to the study, it's not going to do him much good. Okay. He's going to, I don't know if you guys saw that the famous Seinfeld episode, Serenity Now. That's what this study is talking about. No clue. All right. For those of you who did not watch the famous Serenity Now, you can just watch on YouTube, Serenity Now. George's father, I believe, listened to this self-help tape that said that if you feel stress, you should yell Serenity Now. So he's walking around yelling Serenity Now. And by the end, all of the characters who've engaged in this have had a total mental breakdown because that is not effective. That's a great, I think, equivalent to what we're talking about here is this like fake external thing. And people say, put on a smile or do all these things. Not necessarily effective, but one of the things they're recommending here is have you had something positive that happened in the last 24 hours, last month, or a favorite vacation, where you put your mind there and start kind of reviewing that positive experience that could shift your emotional state, right? Because your mind really can only be thinking one thought at a time. Even though it feels like we're having many thoughts at the same time, our mind can be all over the place. If you sliced it, if you did like a CAT scan or whatever it is, if you're able to like slice those thoughts up, you'd able to see actually it was one thought at a time. You were cycling between many thoughts, but at one given time, it was one thought. And so you can overcome a lot of those negative thoughts by focusing on something else, like something positive, or my personal preference, as I was talking about, identify what the negative thoughts are and question them. Am I going to die? I'm stuck in traffic. Am I going to get fired? Am I going to be homeless? Am I going to die? All these crazy thoughts I'm having. What's the likelihood? Probably, I'm thinking 100%. That's why I'm freaking out, but probably much lower than that. So anyway, that is one study. I'm open to questions and comments from you guys.
Well, one thing you can say is, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Right.
And
That's a
how
good
do you-
way to reframe. Yeah, very good. What's the worst that can happen? Now, I guess you could think the worst that could happen is I could get fired and be homeless and die. So you start freaking out again. That's the worst that could happen. But the question that the therapist would have is that realistic? Yeah. Judy, did you have a question?
An example I would give that I use from time to time is if I'm driving in traffic and it's heavy traffic, instead of saying, oh, I've got to drive in this traffic, I say, I get to drive in the traffic. I get to have a car. I get to go places. So just by changing the word from I've got to I get to me makes a big difference.
Nice. Great. I love it.
Okay.
We got a comment from our live class room. What did you?
Triangle, so I usually like.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a group and I usually draw on the board.
Yeah.
Thoughts, feelings, and actions.
Yeah.
To show that it's all connected.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah, that triangle is thoughts. Right.
Thoughts, feelings, and actions.
Right,
So what you're
Thoughts.
thinking, so if you change that thought, then they're all affected.
right. Yeah. And this is pointing out that the changing the actions approach may not be as effective as some people think.
Right.
Yeah.
If we go back.
Yeah, the thoughts is more effective. Another interesting feature of this study, which I thought was interesting, could be a little controversial, is they found a difference between men and women in terms of fake smiling. Okay, and here's what they found. They found that fake smiling is more detrimental to women than it is to men. Women had more of a negative reaction to being essentially told just put on a smile than men did. Okay. And it's kind of a little bit intuitive, but they had a theory for why this was. You guys want to posit a theory for why the women felt worse from fake smiling than men did? What's that? You think more? Could be interesting.
How about because they felt
Okay,
that
so explain that and yeah. Go ahead.
how about they just felt that it
I think
wasn't
the internet
being
is stable.
truthful. That they weren't being truthful. They were
Not
like
truthful.
lying.
But why would that be worse for women than men? Right? And why would that be worse for the women?
Women are generally more in touch with their emotions and sensitive. They cry more easily and they feel for people more easily. And they feel for a crowd sometimes, not just themselves. I don't know.
Very
I
good.
think
That was
women- yeah,
that
I-
was me.
Very good. Very good. Very close to what the research said.
Oh,
Yeah, thank
okay.
you. So the researchers' theory, very similar to Susan's, was that it has to do with acculturation and the fact that men are very accustomed to holding in their feelings. So in other words, men are faking their feelings a lot more than women are most of the time, particularly when it comes to anger or when it comes to sadness, perhaps. Maybe women are some issues with expressing anger in our society also. But let's take sadness as an example. So men are taught from a young age, men don't cry, that kind of stuff. There's a whole book written about it called Fire in the Belly, which I read in graduate school. It's fantastic. But it's really all about how men are trained to like just not express emotion. And so if you're trained to not express emotion, one of the positives of that is if you have to fake emotion, that's more comfortable. So they had less of a negative effect because, well, you've been faking your emotions your whole life. So not so bad to fake another emotion. But for a woman, now that's more detrimental because she's not used to that and doesn't like it. So that was their theory. Okay, it's just a theory. But I thought it was at least at the very least interesting. All right. Next study here. All right. So this study is from the Department of Political Science, University of California, San Diego, together with the Department of Healthcare Policy at Harvard. And it, let me see if I can get what the name of the publication is here. No, but I can give you the website. It's bmj.com. But here's the name of the study. Dynamic spread of happiness in a large social network, longitudinal analysis over 20 years. And what this is basically tracking people over 20 years on the impact of who they hang out with, okay? And not surprisingly, who you hang out with matters, right? If you find that you're surrounded by negative people, guess what that does to your mood? And if you stick with those negative people for 20 years, guess what that does to your mood? Not good. Okay. So none of this was rocket science, but you can see the study where they're tracking it. And like, we can now confirm that hanging around negative people is bad for your mood, and hanging around positive people is good for your mood.
Did they need 20 years?
And they tracked it for 20 years to see how bad it gets. So choose your friends carefully. So let me read some of the pieces here, the findings here. All right. Clusters of happy and unhappy people are visible in the network, and the relationship between people's happiness extends up to 3 degrees of separation. For example, to the friends of one's friends' friends. So you know how like LinkedIn and social, you have like your first and then your second and your third, or cousins. You could have your first, second, third degree cousins, assuming you spend more time with your first degree and less time with your third degree, but they're more removed. That even has an impact on third degree friends. Okay. So you even need to be careful, like your friends, you want to know who they hang out with. You know, that has an impact all the way around. People who are surrounded by many happy people and those who are central in the network are more likely to become happy in the future. So they were able to predict this person's happiness based on the group that they're hanging out with today. Longitudinal statistical models suggest that clusters of happiness result from the spread of happiness and not just a tendency for people to associate with similar individuals. So one of the hypotheses they had was, well, you're a happy person, you just happen to hang out with other happy people, like attracts like. But they're able to show that no, if you're kind of like a not such a happy person and you step into a happier group, that's going to have a positive impact on you. It's not just that similar people hang out with similar people. In fact, a lot of us like some variety in our friends, right? So, you know, if you're a relatively stable person, you may enjoy hanging out with some relatively unstable people, maybe some variety, you know what I mean? So not talking about myself at all. So I don't know which one I am anyway. Anyway, which one is easier? I think it would depend on who you are. Yeah, for sure. Good question though. Which one is more infectious? Is happiness more infectious or unhappiness more infectious? And that was a good question, but I would imagine that has to do with who you are. That there's some people, they say that there's 3 types of people. There's tunas, dolphins, and sharks. Okay. Sharks are like aggressive types and they're coming after you, you know. No offense to lawyers, but I've met a lot of sharks who are lawyers. Tunas are depressed. So apparently like a tuna could be swimming around, take a bite out of the tuna. Tuna's like, oh, I guess I deserved it, and just keep swimming away bleeding. You know, oh, well. And then dolphins are just like playing around. Actually, this comes from a business book, to like be aware of the different people that you're around. So dolphins are happy and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, it's obviously preferable to be around dolphins. But one of the things I thought was interesting is we could probably all relate to all 3 personalities inside of us. You know, like in certain settings, we're a little more shark-like, maybe because we have to be. In other settings, we may be more fun and happy, dolphin, maybe on a vacation. And then in other situations, we become a little bit of a tuna. And maybe you can like create a graph for yourself of like, you know, kind of track like, you know, what kind of fish or mammal you are, depending on the situation, depending on who you're hanging out with. But some people seem to be primarily one, you know, it's like lots of tuna and a little bit of shark and a little bit of dolphin. So that person would probably be, you know, completely unaffected by other dolphins. Like, you know, they'll take a long time and have to hang out with a lot of dolphins and be very conscious of it because their nature is a little bit, you know, down. But nevertheless, there was an impact here. Yeah.
Can you say the name of that title again?
Yeah,
25.
it is. Just look up dynamic spread of happiness,
There we go.
and that'll bring up this article.
And I've heard that before. Except
Yeah.
The animal with dogs, pigs, and sheep.
Dogs, pigs, and sheep. Okay.
where it's obvious. Dogs are mean,
Yeah.
sheep follow along, pigs are kind of greedy.
Okay. The dogs are happy, right? Aren't they like cute? A lot of kinds of dogs, right? And they say the dog matches the personality of the owner. I don't think he's going to be watching the Time Network, so it's okay. An eye-opening and perhaps upsetting, but maybe helpful exercise that I've seen in this regard, and I like metrics, would be to look at your friend group or your social group and your family group, okay, and rate each one of them, okay, with the following scale. Okay, we're not going to go as -10 to +10. I find -3 to +3, with 0 being neutral. So here's what I mean by that. Small, medium, and person. Do you feel that you have more energy? A little bit more energy, that's a +1. Medium amount, +2, a lot more positive energy, +3. Or on the negative side, you feel a little bit drained, that's a -1. You feel medium drained, that's a -2. You feel extremely drained, -3. And after an hour, you feel neither more energized nor more tired, more exhausted. That would be the 0, okay? And then you can rate your entire friend network and the people you hang out with, which a lot of times kind of by serendipity and, you know, community. And you just kind of, you're placed with these people and they're your neighbors. It's not like people usually buy homes together, like, hey, you buy here and I'll buy here. You know, you may actually be living next to some negative people, and you may be sitting next to negative people at different things that you do, et cetera, et cetera. And you become friendly, okay, which seems like a nice thing, but you may not realize you're spending time with people that drain you, okay? And then there's these other people that you come into contact every once in a while, but every time you see them, you feel energized, you feel good about it. But because it's not conscious and you're not paying attention to it, you're not going out of your way to, you know, make deposits into those relationships and to strengthen those relationships. So you may have like a big stack of Fs and a small stack of As in your life, and you're spending a lot of time with the Fs, with the -3s. You're spending very little time with the As, the +3s. And if you become conscious of it, aware of it, you can still be nice to the -3s and say, hey, how you doing, John? You know, great to see you. All right, see you later. You know, and just like, okay. But, and then the +3, who you were otherwise would have just had a quick hello with, you say, hey, you know, you want to, you know, hang out a little bit? Would you like to get, yeah, I'd love to, you know, we never seem to find the time. Let's schedule it. Let's make the time. This person's a +3. That's worthwhile for me to spend time with this person. I spoke to a rabbi friend of mine about this saying that's in the self-help world that you are the people you hang out with the most. You are the average of the 5 people you hang out the most. That could be in terms of happiness. It could be in terms of drive to do great things, in terms of personal growth, right? If the 5 people you hang out with the most are obese, and you're just mildly obese, you may feel pretty good about yourself, you know? And then you start hanging out with 5 other people that work out all the time and they're in great shape and have 6-packs. And then you're like, oh, okay. So you are impacted by the people that you hang out with, but we want to make it a conscious process. We want to make it a conscious process of, these are people that I want to hang out with because they energize me, they motivate me, they inspire me. And these are people that drain me. And just because I've always hung out with them doesn't mean I have to continue. You know, as conscious of the saying, only live once, is argued that we have multiple lives, and that's a wonderful thing. I'm just not aware of them. So I just want to live this life in the best possible way. And so why waste it with people that are draining you? And people are like, well, I don't have a choice, you know, blah, blah, blah. I think that if people are conscious of it, they can adjust the amount of energy they're putting into the relationships that drain them versus the relationships that give them energy. All
I
right,
have a question.
questions, Yes. Go ahead, Susan.
Can I? Okay. My question is, isn't it a Torah commandment to love your fellow Jew, whether the happy one or the sad one or the in-between happy and sad one? It's a commandment like keeping meat and dairy separate and not touching the light switch. Actually, those are lesser commandments than loving your fellow Jew. But anyways, there is a commandment in the Torah to love your fellow Jew. It's a
Yes,
mitzvah.
great question. That's a great question. Yeah. So does self-care and loving your fellow Jew, are those mutually exclusive? Right. And that's a very good point. So I would put it like this, that if you have a business and you want your business to be two things, profitable and generous. Let's say you have those two goals. I'd like my business to be profitable and generous, where this business does really well and we give a large amount of charity because that makes me happy. Which one comes first? Can the business be generous and not profitable? Why not?
Can't give away
right.
what you don't have.
Right? If there's nothing in my pocket, then how can I give my 10% or 20%? Okay. Energy works in a very similar way. Psychological energy works in a very similar way. If I am not in a good place myself, and I'm not taking care of myself from an energy standpoint, from a psychological mental health standpoint, where will I get the positive energy to be loving and generous to others if I am not filled up myself? So they say, that's why on Havdalah, you pour the cup so that it overflows, right? The cup is very important to be full. We want to make sure that during the week we have enough abundance, and I include psychological abundance in that, to overflow to other people, to be loving and caring. But we certainly can't do that if we're running on empty, So you got to put gas in the tank. And so if someone is draining your tank day in, day out, it's very nice of you, very generous to have, your entire social network draining you, and you give to everybody. But at a certain point, we're going to be visiting you in 7 West, the psych unit, because you've overextended yourself psychologically. So you have to take care of yourself. And so that's the first thing. But then the whole goal of that really was to be loving and generous. And I find that happy people are more loving and generous long-term than people that don't take care of themselves. So it is not a selfish thing to take good care of yourself. And the people that you hang out with, according to this important study, have a massive impact on the people that you spend time with day in, day out, massive impact on your energy and your ability to do that. But excellent question. So let me read to you a little quote from this study. Emotional states can be transferred directly from one individual to another by mimicry and emotional contagion. There's emotional contagion. It's like contagious. Other people's moods and emotions are contagious. Perhaps by the copying of emotionally relevant body actions, particularly facial expressions seen in others, people can catch emotional states they observe in others over time frames ranging from seconds to weeks. Can have an impact on someone emotionally in just a second, which is why they say you should smile. Okay, don't spend all day fake smiling, but find something good to smile about and smile at someone else. In seconds, you can make their day better. For example, students randomly assigned to a mildly depressed roommate, I thought this was interesting, became increasingly depressed over a 3-month period. And the possibility of emotional contagion between strangers, even those in ephemeral contact, has been documented by the effects of service with a smile on customer satisfaction and tipping. Okay, so it's the flip side that, by the way, about fake smiling also, that it actually can be nice for the other person. Yeah. Just be careful that it's not like draining you, that you're spending all day fake smiling, but you're not feeling great, but you put on a nice smile and then you work on your thoughts and emotions. It all can work very well together. It can. Yeah. Yeah, they have a video, a couple of videos that I like to watch about laughing yoga or laughter yoga. And they are fake laughing for the first minute, and then it just becomes so ridiculous. If you watch these YouTube videos, these guys getting in a room together and they start laughing, and after a few minutes, they are literally like belly laughing for real. But those people are there by choice, and those people are not being forced to laugh. I think that would be a little spooky, right? To be like if you force someone to laugh. So that kind of probably is a lot of what the fake smiling was about. People were forced to smile. Yeah. Actors. Yeah. But I think that the best actors are method actors. They really go into that mindset, right? And I've heard, that I don't know, different actors, like even when they're not filming, they're still in character because they are that. They're George Washington right now. Don't call me Steve. I'm George Washington. My thoughts, my emotions. I've studied George Washington. I have my own take on George Washington, but I am George Washington. So, and those guys are the most convincing actors, right? Because they're really psychotic in a sense. They're delusional. They really are that person. So yeah. Okay, so those were 2 studies, and then we'll share one more study with you guys tonight. So this is a study from University of British Columbia. And we're going to focus a little bit on a study done with children surrounding kind prosocial behavior. Okay, so it's a study on kindness, on the effects of kindness on well-being. And this study is called Kindness Counts, Promoting Prosocial Behavior in Pre-Adolescence, Boosts Peer Acceptance and Well-Being. Okay, and let's see. It's the University of British Columbia, if you want to look it up. Kindness Counts. All right, so here's the abstract to this article. At the top of parents' many wishes is for their children to be happy, to be good, and to be well-liked, right? Our findings suggest that these goals may not only be compatible, but also reciprocal. They want their kids to be happy, to be good, and to be well-liked, to be emotionally happy, to be good kids, not happy because they're like bullying, like, I love my dad, I had a great day, I bullied 20 kids. Best day ever. No, want your kid to be happy. And we also want them to be good. We want them to be good kids. And we also want them to be well-liked. Doesn't mean they have to be the most popular and everyone's like, whoa, I wish I was you. But we want them to be well-liked. So they're not 3 separate things according to the study. They are reciprocal. In other words, one can lead to the next. In a longitudinal experiment conducted in 19 classrooms in Vancouver, 9 to 11-year-olds were instructed to perform 3 acts of kindness per week over the course of 4 weeks. Students improved in well-being, and students who performed kind acts experienced significantly bigger increases in peer acceptance than the other students who were in the control group. Increasing peer acceptance is a critical goal as it is related to a variety of important academic and social outcomes. Teachers and interventionists can build on this study by introducing intentional pro-social activities into classrooms and recommending such activities be performed regularly and purposefully. So what is all this about? So they told children, in the study, to perform 3 acts of kindness per week. It's not that much. 3 acts of kindness, just go out of your way to do 3 kind things. And to do that over 4 weeks. So, if you do your math, that's just like 12 acts of kindness over a month, not that much. And they found that these kids, A, were happier, but not only that, And they were happier being good, doing good things. But not only that, they're actually more popular. So all the three things that parents want for their kids was helped by these kids intentionally doing nice things for other kids, like saying, okay, here's my three things I'm going to do nice for, three kids in my class, or three nice things for one kid this week, whatever it may be. And they found that being good, 1 second. They found that being good, doing these three nice things, made them happier and also made them more well-liked by the other kids, which I thought was interesting. So here's kind of one of the interesting things I found here. So most classrooms have a little bit of a problem. Most classrooms have a little problem where you have like popular kids and less popular kids. And being a less popular kid has been found to have some bad outcomes for those kids, okay? So one of the things they're recommending here in this article, if you are able to pull it up, is it talks about an even distribution of popularity. That in an ideal classroom, no kid is either the favorite kid and no kid is like the marginalized kid. That like you create an even amount of popularity in a classroom. That would be the ideal classroom. And how would you control that? You would encourage the kids who are not doing very well socially. And most of the time, what they're going to say to you is, nobody likes me. You know, that's the problem. They encourage those kids to go out of their way and do nice things for the other kids in the classroom, which ends up being reciprocal and making them more well-liked. As they become more coming home upset every day, as they become more well-liked, it improves their sense of well-being, sense of happiness. Very, very important at the age of 9, 10. It's important as adults also. We all want to be well-liked, but at that early age, it's super important. So it's a very interesting intervention to go out of your way to go do nice things for other people, because it has the side effect of making you happier and more well-liked. And as people become more well-liked, they become happier people. And so, you know, some people work very hard to say, you know what, one of my goals this year is to care less about what people think about me. I care too much. I think too much about what people think about me, right? So they throw this study in the garbage because the study is designed to help, you know, you're being nice to other people and it becomes this reciprocal thing, right? People mirror each other. You're grumpy towards someone, they're more likely to be grumpy. If someone's grumpy towards you, most of the time what we do is we're grumpy back to them. But what this study is saying is don't do that. Disregard their grumpiness. Find a way to do something nice for that person. See what happens. Okay. Now for little kids, that matters a lot because they become more liked. But for adults, the guy may actually not do anything, like not really respond. You know, you may not become that guy's favorite. He may be like, that guy's a little weird. He was doing nice things for me. Okay. So that's actually, you know, it is important to have a social group, absolutely, for adults. But part of what adults are working on also is caring less about what other people think about them. That's different from doing nice things for other people because it's consistent with your values. I'm not being nice to other people so that other people will like me. That's, kids will do that. That's okay. But I'm being nice to other people because that's consistent with my values. And that is very much correlated with people being happy. Is actually, I do things that are consistent with my values, regardless of whether it's popular or not. You know, sometimes doing things that are the good thing, the right thing, is not very popular. But actually, that can lead to quite a bit of happiness for people to, even in those, especially perhaps in those cases, to do the right thing, to be good, to be pro-social, as opposed to being reactive. Someone's not being nice to me, so I'm going to respond in kind. David.
It sounds to me like kumbaya, you know?
Yeah.
Does that lead to the situation where you have, there's no winners and no losers? Everybody's a winner, even though there was somebody who wanted, everybody gets a prize, and you know, that sort of mentality, everybody's good, so everybody gets a prize, everybody's a winner. Which
Right.
It's not reality of life.
Right.
There are winners, there are losers.
Yeah.
Some people get a prize, some people don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying that, you know, you may be, if what we're talking about is no matter how kids do on tests, everybody gets 100. Like, is that really training them for real life? That doesn't sound healthy. But one of the areas that I'm very interested in is all the different types of intelligence that are out there. And so are our schools measuring and rewarding all the different types of intelligence? And I would say that most schools are not doing a great job of helping kids identify their particular areas of strength and, you know, rewarding those types of intelligence. One of my favorite TED Talks is by Sir Ken Robinson, and it's like one of these, like, you know, 50 million hits or whatever more, but it's a very funny talk, and it's entitled, so it's Sir Ken Robinson, and it's entitled how our schools are killing creativity. And what his point is that the top thing that is valued, you know, and I have a wife who's an algebra teacher, but the top thing that's valued in a school are things like algebra. There's a certain part of your brain. What about dance and music? Unless you go to a school that focuses on that, it's like a nice, yeah, it's all the way at the bottom, right? It's a nice elective, you know, but it doesn't make you, you know, it doesn't make you a great student. Like, the student who's not good at algebra and is amazing at dance is a bad student for the most part, right? They get bad grades. The student that is amazing at algebra and can't dance, no rhythm, they're just like, you know, a student, excellent student. So I think that's more the problem. And so where all the kids would get valued for their strengths and so it's not that we're the same in terms of our strengths and abilities, but we are equally valued, and the teacher would, you know, find all the good
Are very
in each of
similar
the
also to
teachers.
say everybody's geared towards college, which they're not, they should be going to technical school.
Technical school is great,
And
if that's what you
the
need,
country
yeah.
as a whole basically tries to gear everybody to a college degree.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so just for our online people, if you didn't hear David's comment, so maybe we should be gearing, not every kid needs to become a doctor or lawyer. And I agree with that 100%. Yeah, agree with that 100%. I think that, you know, I have people in my practice that have been ushered along into very expensive, you know, degrees by well-meaning family members. They now have $300,000 in debt, but that's not the worst part. The worst part is they hate what they do. So now they're stuck with $300,000 of debt doing something they hate. I wouldn't mind that much debt if I knew that I was, you know, I love this, because, you know, when you become head of anesthesia, even though you have $300,000 in debt, you'll bounce back pretty quickly. You love what you do, and you'll find a way back. You know, no, you know. But if you realize pretty quickly as you start doing this, like, wow, I've been like, you know, talked into this, and I hate it, and now I have all this debt, and now I'm stuck doing it. And by the way, now this guy is sticking needles into you because he has to. It's like, who is this system good for? So you're absolutely right. Yeah. Identifying early on what your strengths are, what your interests are, what you enjoy is super important. I think every kid should have a life coach from an early age, you know, and it shouldn't be like someone who's directly, you know, has skin in the game, so to speak, like a parent. It should be like an independent third party as a benefit. I'm not selling myself as a life coach for your kids. Trust me, I don't want the job, but, you know, I think that would be very helpful from an early age to have someone who talks to you and helps you figure out what your strengths are, because I think for the most part, the strengths we had when we were kids just end up manifesting as adults. it's not like they change that much. And the things that we really enjoy and the things that we really value, things that we find meaningful, at an early age actually just manifest when we become older. So it's actually really valuable to break that down for when you're relatively young. Obviously, you don't have all the life experience, you haven't tried all these things. You wouldn't want to absolutely commit to dentistry when you're 6. But I think that as you start getting to know this person and their strengths, values, and things that they enjoy, you'll find that, it kind of starts adding up towards a certain direction versus not caring about what their strengths are, not caring about what their interests are, not caring about the things that they get a lot of pleasure from, and saying, I'm a dentist, you're going to be a dentist. I already put your name up on the wall. It's Jones and Jones Dentists. It's like, okay, and then we have to deal with the fact that they don't like being a dentist. So good, very good questions. And I think that, just to bring things full circle, I know people have to go, but the even distribution of popularity can be about people being valued for who they are and what their strengths are. And the suggestion here, that's for the teacher to focus on, but the suggestion here was just to encourage young people to do nice things for other people, because instead of being reactive, when we go out of our way to do nice things for other people, has a positive impact on us. So just to review the 3 things we talked about, smiling is a good thing as long as you try to make it come from an inside out approach. And that can be positive for your emotion, but spending too much time fake smiling can be detrimental. We talked about being thoughtful about who we hang out with. And I suggested an energy evaluation analysis of the people that you're spending time with. And perhaps there are people that you should be spending more time with that you could be increasing an effort and energy that you're doing with, and perhaps being more thoughtful with other people that may just be there. And then finally, we talked about the benefits of, I think it's not just for kids, it's for all of us, going out of our way to be kind to other people can improve our personal mental health and well-being. So it's a good thing to go out of our way and be thoughtful. Who am I hanging out with? What are the thoughts that I'm putting in my mind? Are there nice things that I can do for other people? All consistent with the research that we've reviewed tonight. All right. So I'll see you guys back here with 3 more areas of study for our final class, same time next week. And I don't know if Rabbi Feigenbaum's still here. I'll assume he's not. So I'm going to say good night to everybody, and I will see you all
Thank you
next week.
so much, Elliot. That was wonderful.
Good night, Elliot.
Wonderful.
Sure.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Yeah. Good night, Caroline.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you, Elliot. Excellent class.
Okay.
Hold on, Elliot.